Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Ute Dash. My name is Cole Bagley, and I'm your host for today's show, joined again by the lovely Sammy Mora, editor for the Daily Utah Chronicle Sports Desk. Sammy, how are we doing this week?
It's cold. It snowed this weekend. I have my fuzzy socks on. I'm ready for some Utah football. How are you, Cole?
I'm doing quite well. Sammy, excited. The cold weather, I think, has really made me crave some college football, especially some Utah football. So just one more week and a half, and we get to watch those Utes.
A week from Saturday.
It's fantastic.
I'm so excited.
I didn't know if we were going to be able to say that in the year 2020, but we will, and here we are. And in 1 week, we'll get to watch those Utes hopefully thrash some Wildcats here in Salt Lake City. But before we do that, we need to know, Sammy, who is going to be the guy taking the handoffs for the Utes.
I think it's going to be Devin Brumfield. There's been a lot of talk. Like Whittingham even said today, that the beginning of it was this morning. He said that it's going to be a running back by committee style for the first couple of weeks, but I don't think that's going to last very long. I think it's going to be Devin Brumfield's job come week 3. Let alone, like he's a really good back. Like last season, he had 263 yards and 2 touchdowns, and that was behind Zach Moss, who is the leading rusher in school history. He averaged 4.5 yards per carry. He's a workhorse, and I think he's going to be able to get it done for the Utes this year.
Yeah, I definitely could see that. But I think, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, I do think it's going to be a committee of maybe a couple guys taking handoffs, but I think the touches are going to be given to Brumfield and Wilmore for the first 1-2 weeks. I do think there will be a solid starter for that USC game, but I do think we're going to see those two guys getting the majority of the touches, and I'm not so sure it's going to be Brumfield getting the majority after that from week 3 on. I don't know that it's going to be him, because just looking at some numbers from Wilmore last year, both these guys didn't get to see the ball a whole lot because the godsend, the poster child, Zach Moss was taking it almost every time. But Wilmore had 194 yards, 1 touchdown, an average of 4 yards a carry. So pretty close, a little bit behind Brumfield. Like you said, Brumfield 263 on yards, 2 touchdowns, and 4.5 yards per carry. But I think it's just really close, and too close to call it from now, saying, okay, yeah, week 3, it's going to be Brumfield taking those touches away from Wilmore.
And like Witt's already said, that all 4 running backs that we have that are vying for time, so Jordan Wilmore, Devin Brumfield, Ty Jordan, Mekhi Bernard, he said all 4 of them bring vastly different things to the table. So you have all of them do different things. Like I see Brum as like a bruising back. Like he is big. He's going to be able to get those in there. Some of them are shiftier. Some of them are able to catch the balls in the backfield. So all 4 running backs are going to bring different things. But at the same time, this Utah offense is going to need to find an identity, and they're going to need to find it fast, whether it is a pass team or if we continue on the lineage of being a run team. They're going to need to find their offensive identity pretty fast. And I think one of those big things to helping get that identity is the running back.
For sure. It'll be interesting. That I think this year, probably more so than any other year out of maybe the last 5 or 6 seasons, the Utes could maybe change up their offense a little bit. I think we've been very heavy run offense. Obviously, when you have a guy like Zach Moss, you're going to give him the ball. But this year, with the set of wide receivers and tight ends that the Utes are going to be playing, we might see that change a little bit. We might see that shift a little bit, maybe even out on the scale a little bit more, seeing more passes, or maybe an even set of passes and handoffs, or maybe even some more passes than handoffs. But I think both these guys, Wilmore and Brumfield, have the potential to be the starter. To this point, I don't know that either has really stood out more than any other in the training camp. It didn't seem that way in Whittingham's media availability last week. There were questions about that, and he said, there's four guys that are doing a great job, and he didn't seem to be stuck on one more than the other. So I think we will see some shared handoffs for those first two games. But like I agree with you, Sammy. I think week 3, somebody's going to be given that responsibility to be getting the majority, especially when they're going into a game against USC where you need that consistency.
Mm-hmm. And even today, Whittingham said, like, we're at the finish line of fall camp at this point. And Whittingham even said that all 4 guys have separated themselves, but in different ways. Mm-hmm. Like he said, he's not going to, in typical Whittingham fashion, he's not going to tip his hand, just like he's not going to tip his hand about who the starting quarterback is. So he said that all, like, there's one back that's has the speed. He said there's one that's able to catch the balls in the backfield. It's just Utah has a long lineage of really good running backs. It even goes back before Moss. You had Devontae Booker, you had Joe Williams, you have all of these really good backs. So I think it's going to be interesting to see if Utah does deviate away from that typical run first offense, because we've been so used to that in years past. And it's going to be different to see, honestly, because you have not only an arsenal of really good running backs, you also have an arsenal of really good pass catchers. And I think that this year is probably the most balanced offense Utah's had in a while.
For sure. I think Whittingham has kind of found himself in a position that he hasn't been used to for the last 6, 7, 8 years. I feel like there's normally been a starter week 1 at the running back position. Now we've had some fantastic running backs that have been the clear option, but I think this year I don't know that there's that big of a spread. But I'm hoping that through the first 2 games that he does figure that out, and I expect him to. I mean, looking at the yards that were given up by Arizona and UCLA last year, Moss torched Arizona for 203 yards, which was the most that he ran all season in a single game, and then UCLA for 127, which was the 3rd most. And so I don't think that these defenses have improved a whole lot to this season. And so I expect there to be a lot of development on who it's going to be, so that when they get to that game against USC, that they know, okay, this guy's taking the reps. And I don't think there's a clear answer. I could see it being Wilmore. I could see it being Brumfield. I think only time will tell. And I think these first 2 games will be very telling on who that's going to be.
I think it also depends on who Utah's playing, because each defense has a different vibe. So like Brumfield could have a breakout game against Arizona, but struggle against UCLA. And then it could be Wilmore's game to shine against UCLA, but he has a rough game against Oregon State. And Ty Jordan is just torching Oregon State. It's like Utah has really good backs, and they're able to use their backs in a lot of different ways, whether it be catching balls in the backfield, where it be just running it down the middle and shoving it down people's throats. Utah's backs are really good, and I'm not worried about that. I'm like, whoever ends up getting the starting job at Utah, I'm going to be content with, and I'm going to be happy with. I personally think it should be Devin Brumfield, but I can see Jordan Wilmore making a really strong push for it, especially considering that people have compared him to Zach Moss.
Yeah, that's the comparison that I kind of hold to, that kind of makes me not so sure about Brumfield as much. As you watch the highlights of Wilmore, and especially some of the high school things, he has that Marshawn Lynch-esque to him. He's able to bounce off guys and pick up 3 or 4 extra yards. A second down and 10 or second down and 9, where he might go for 3 yards and it looks like the defense has got him and it's going to be, maybe a 3rd and 5. He pushes it a couple extra yards and makes it a first down or a 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2, an easier situation for the offense to convert or to keep the drive going. So that's just what I like. Not that Brumfield is incapable of those things, but I just feel like I've seen that more from Wilmore than I have from Brumfield in tapes and stuff like that.
The last thing I want to add on this running back room before we move on is, speaking on Wilmore, and the point you just made is one of my favorite. The touchdown he scored last year was amazing. It was against Oregon State, and he dragged 2 Oregon State defenders with him into the end zone. That is really impressive. And there's only one person I've seen do something like that, and it's Zach Moss.
It'll be interesting to see, and I'm excited. But again, we said this. I think we said this in every show. We trust Witt. We trust Coach Witt to make the right decision, to put the guy out there that's going to produce the best results. And so, to me, doesn't matter who it is as long as they're helping us win football games.
In Witt, we trust.
Yes, absolutely. I need that tattooed on my back or something.
Get a T-shirt. Get a T-shirt that says "In Witt we trust."
I guess that's easier.
Someone make Cole a T-shirt that says "In Witt we trust."
Yes, somebody out there, whoever's watching, I need a T-shirt like that.
Yeah, you could drop it off at the Crony offices, and we will. I'll make sure Cole gets it.
To all our fans out there,